This is mountains at hand. I talk about the peaks that you can climb in one day without complex training and equipment. Today we will get acquainted with the extinct volcano Karadağ and the mountain Delikkaya Tepe in Western Taurus Mountains, located in Turkey to the east of Antalya's ski resorts. Let's say you are in the ski resorts in Turkey. Why the ski resorts? Because if you were going to the mountains, you already know everything about them for a long time, and this video is not interesting to you. But if you are an ordinary city dweller without special training and equipment, who has never spent the nights in a tent but wanted to climb to the top, this video is for you. But before we start, I remind you, this is an introductory video. Mountains are a dangerous place, and you are responsible for your own life and health during a hike. Therefore, do not take unnecessary risks and be prepared for any situation. However, this is only a reminder that you must take the ascent at your own risk. So, you are in a Turkish ski resort. You relax on the sea and constantly see mountains that attract you with their beauty. At some point, you become interested. Is it possible to visit the top of one of these mountains and see what this world looks like from a height? Of course you can! Any climber will answer. You just need to prepare, choose a road and go trekking for a few days. But you are not a mountaineer, and you don't want to lose precious nights in your all-inclusive hotel. The maximum that you are ready for is to go on a long excursion and spend one night there. From the ski resorts of Turkey to the interior of the country, people usually go to the sparkling Pamukkale or exciting Cappadocia. Unfortunately, the highest mountains of Turkey are far from both of these places. The 5 highest peaks of the country are located in the eastern and southeastern parts of the country. It takes a long time to get to them, and it is extremely difficult to climb them in one day. And access to the highest mountain of Turkey, Ararat, is even limited. 3 of the 5 highest mountains are extinct stratovolcanoes. They have the usual conical shape according to the pictures in the textbook. In the central part of the country, there are also mountains of this shape. For example, not far from Cappadocia is the 6th highest mountain in the country, the extinct stratovolcano Arges, 3,864 meters. In antiquity, it was called the Arges Mountain and was sacred to the Luvians and Hittites. It is the highest mountain in central part of Asia Minor. It can be seen from the heights of Cappadocia in the east. On its eastern slope, there is a ski resort which can be reached by car and variably shortened the way to the top. But if you want to conquer it, you will have to go up 10 kilometers long, with an elevation of 1,650 meters, and then descend the same 10 kilometers. Without preparation, it's problematic to do this in one day. The road to Cappadocia passes near the 2nd highest mountain in central Anatolia, Hasan Dagi, 3,253 meters. And this is also an extinct stratovolcano. There is a paragliding area on the northern slope of the mountain, which is probably accessible by car. It's located at an altitude of 1,900 meters. From there is 1,300 meters of elevation and about 6 kilometers of ascent to the top. This is not an easy climb. Wikipedia estimated its duration at 6 hours. But if you decide to climb, there are absolutely stunning views from there. If you have the opportunity to spend the night somewhere nearby and allocate a whole day for climbing and descent, then in summer, when the daylight is as long as possible, Mount Hasan is suitable for one-day hike. However, you can find something affordable and impressive near the resorts. I really hope that someday I will be able to make a video about the western direction and the peaks between the resorts of Anatolian and Aegean coasts. Now, let's consider the direction of the northeast. Let's assume that you went on an excursion to Cappadocia. If you went with package tour on a tour bus, then nothing will save you. But on rented car, you have exciting opportunities. Well, you can visit not only Cappadocia, but also drive to the ruins of Hittite cities, the impressive Hattusa or the very curious city of Alajahuyuk. Add one day with an overnight stay to your trip and they will open up before you. In addition, you can also discover by the cave cities of Derinkuyu and Kaymakli. Finally, you can visit Karadağ, an accessible volcano that has preserved its shape. It's located on the way from Cappadocia to the seaside resort and rises like a single mountain on a flat plain. Compared to the many other extinct volcanoes, Karadağ has preserved its caldera, which look like huge deep bowl. Very impressive. Compared to other volcanoes in Anatolia, it's not very high, 2,271 meters. Visually, it seems even lower due to the fact that its bottom is at an altitude of about 1,000 meters. So, the prominence of the mountain is about 1,270 meters, and you can easily climb it by car. It's located 35 kilometers north of Karaman city. For a walking road, this is far away. And also there isn't a lot of bus service in Turkey. Google Maps will not help you to make road by public transport from the sea resorts to Karaman or Cappadocia or from Karaman to mountain Karadağ. It's much easier to rent a car for such road. Moreover, the road to its top is accessible even for car with a low landing. The road leads to the crest of the caldera, passes around its slope and exits from the other side. Unfortunately, it will not be possible to get to the summit itself, it's occupied by military object. But nearby, of the neighboring small peak, there is a repeater mast, near which there is a scenic viewpoint platform. A real gift for those who appreciate mountain views but can't spend time on preparation and long routes. From the slopes of the mountain, there are views of the huge flat Likaonian Plain, which is part of the central Anatolian plateau. This plain is occupied by dry steppes and semi-deserts. Agriculture on it is complex, and even today it is not densely populated. However, it's here that the city of Konya is located, which was the capital of the Rum Seljuk Sultanate, which was reborn later into Ottoman Empire. Not far from here is a real archaeological pearl of Turkey, the ancient settlement of the Çatalhöyük. This is a city of the late Stone Age, which today has no analogues. Its earliest layers date back to the 7,400 year BC. Its inhabitants were fed by gathering. This settlement is older than most of the famous agricultural city-states of antiquity. A large city of the Hittite kingdom was located nearby. There is an assumption that this is the temporary capital of Tarhuntassa. There are monuments of the Hittite period on Karadağ. On Mount Kizildag there is a complex with inscription and relief of the sitting king, presumably Hartapu. From here, under good condition, you can see Tarhuntassa in the north. There is a Hittite inscription and an altar on the mountain near a relay tower. The mountain with a repeater is called Untitled Tepe. Presumably, its name comes from the distorted name Mikhail, that is, the hill of Mikhail. And the name Karadağ means black mountain. Kara is black, Dag is a mountain. In Roman times, this mountain was called Baratinon. From those times, the remains of Byzantine fortress on the neighboring peak of Bozdag have been preserved. On the northern slopes of the Karadağ mountain, there is one of the most famous monastic church complex in Asia Minor, Binbir Kilise. Translated from Turkish, it means 1001 churches. There are monasteries, church tombs and other structures in Madenshehri and in the neighborhood. And now back to the views from the mountain. Unfortunately, when I was there, everything was covered by a haze. But in dry weather, there should be a magnificent view of the Central and Western Taurus Mountains, as well as the neighboring Mount Hasan volcano. The presence of separate peaks near Karadağ is considered a scene of multiple eruptions. The same is said by individual craters of neighboring heights, such as Bozdag, but the main focus is on the main caldera of the volcano. 100 years ago there was a lake here. Now it has dried up, and at the very bottom there is now a corral for sheep. I am very pleased that I have been to this peak. Moreover, I repeat, you can easily get here by car. If you are planning a day trip from the sea resort and rent a car, you can go to Çatalhöyük in the day and on the way back visit Karadağ. We spent the whole day in Cappadocia, then watched Derinkuyu and spent the night in Karaman. And in the morning we went up to Karadağ and stayed almost a whole day to cross the mountains on the way to the Anatolian resorts. Let me tell you about them. This is a Taurus Mountains. It's divided into Eastern, Central and Western Taurus. The latter is closest to the ski resorts areas. The highest point belongs to the Central Taurus. The Mirkazik Peak has 3,726 meters. The most popular ski resorts of Antalya are almost 200 kilometers away from here. The Western Taurus is separated from Central by the Köksu River. In ancient times, it was called Salif, and it was in it that the famous Emperor Friedrich Barbarossa drowned during the Third Crusade. The Western Taurus Mountains range embraces the ski resorts area in a bow. It's accessible both from Antalya and from the western ski resorts. Its highest point is located in the By-Mountains, By-Daglari, and reaches 3070 meters, and it's a long way to get to it. But on the way to the coast there is a Geyik ridge, Geyik Daglari, translated as the Deer Mountains. The height of the mountain is 2877 meters. Access to it is possible from the passage at an altitude of 2000 meters. In total, the path will be about 6 kilometers long, with an elevation of about 900 meters. Such road could take 5 or 6 hours. But I had to get to the coast before dark, so I chose the neighboring peak of Delikkaya Tepe. Its height is not much lower, 2806 meters. The road can be started from a passage with a height of 2250 meters. Then the ascent road will be about 2 kilometers long with an elevation of 450 meters. Anyone can do it. I was attracted by the fact that the mountain is surrounded by roads on all sides. If I suddenly get lost, I can always go down to the road. It was also fascinating that the detour took only an hour. And what beautiful places were waiting for us when we turned off the highway to the pass under the mountain. The bypass road is unpaved, flat and suitable for cars with standard ground clearance. But you should be careful. Crushed stones on surface easily slip under wheels. Google knows this road well and confidently leads the travelers through the plains and hills to the mountains. From the north, the road to the passage passed through a picturesque gorge with a lake. There is almost no vegetation on the slopes here. However, the locals even here manage to graze goats. Perhaps no one else will be able to feed on such poor soil. From the bottom of the gorge, the road to the pass, and at the top itself, the Delikkaya Tepe is clearly visible. Close to the pass, the slopes seems very steep, but it is not so. There is a place on the pass where you can park your car before hiking, and then go on foot. They will state the views from the foot are good enough, but sometimes the mountains beckon to you, especially when the peak seems so close. Despite the accessibility of the ascent, the peak is not very popular. There is no marked path to the top. This means that you need to choose the path yourself, and you will have to carefully remember the landmarks for the descent. I choose to start from the pass, because this is the closest point to the summit, which can be reached by car. From there I walked along the edge of the mountain, then parallel to the cliff, then along the traverse to the slope, and finally to the top. The very first part was the easiest, especially for ascent. Bar stone, good grip, it's down, it's uncomfortable, the soil can slip off. And up, just fine. Between the bare rocks forehead, the soil was often unreliable. There were areas with small stones scree. It's convenient to walk along the edge leading to the cliff. The cliff is impressive. A deep and steep abyss, at the bottom of which even a snow patch has been preserved, despite the end of summer. By the time you reach the cliff, the height is sufficient to take you breath away from the views of the gorge and the neighboring ridge. When it became inconvenient to walk along the cliff, I had to turn right to the south along the slope. Also, even here the site was with a steep, not the most comfortable ascent among large stones, but still passable for an untrained person like me. Look around, make stops more often and admire the views. This pays off any effort to climb up. Only the clouds coming from the southern coast were frightening. These clouds came from the south, from the moist, warm coast. I really didn't want to be in cloud at the top. This deprives of spacious and unsafe. The neighboring Geyik peak was completely covered by a cloud that day. I was glad that I chose another peak for climbing. Now I would be in this cloud and grimly at the aimlessly spent day in the mountains. Closer to the top there are large stones and after simple ground again. And finally, the final steps of the ascent, and here is the top. Don't pay attention to the wet spot on the geodesic marker. It was I who spilled water on it before I started shooting the video. How beautiful it's there! I love such views, when only the sky is higher than you, high and beautiful, high and beautiful. The world becomes completely visible, also infinitely huge. Fabulously, stunningly beautiful. This is the neighboring Geyik peak, which was unlucky to hide in dense cloud on a clear day. How sad it would be to be there in dense cloud. Let me remind you again, mountains are dangerous place. I was very lucky with the weather. Be prepared for sharp deterioration in the weather and the inability to navigate. Be careful and attentive. Meanwhile, the clouds keep coming and coming, flying over me, scratching the belly of the top. Here is the view from the top to the northeast. A beautiful place to watch and quite unpleasant if you suddenly lose your way. This is how the pass and the abandoned car look from here. From here the cliff seems much more dangerous, so I gave up the idea of going down along the cliff. Despite the complete loneliness, I spent about 20 minutes off the top. Also it seems to me that I had been there for at least an hour. I kept looking in all directions, admiring and penetrating the panoramas I saw. However, clouds from the south threatened to cloud this peak. It was time to descend. Go ahead while the air is clean and the road is clearly visible. It is necessary to descend directly to the south at the first part of way. It's inconvenient and very dangerous to go along the cliff, but it hardly makes sense to move away from the cliffs as a landmark. If you go too low of the southern slope, it will be inconvenient to return to the edge leading to the pass. Be careful, there are sharp stones, steep areas and scree. On the way back, I constantly had to make sure that my foot did not slip. It's good that I went without equipment. It would have been much sadder with the cargo. The whole way up and back took more than 2 hours. I started from the pass at 3:30 p.m. I was at the top an hour later, at 4:35 p.m. I started the descent almost at 5 p.m. and got to the car at 5:50 p.m. Such small efforts and how much happiness! The way from the pass to the south presented a dizzying and beautiful serpentine. But I had to watch the car, because the sleeping top layer of stones, the car brakes poorly on such a surface. A couple of hours later, we had dinner at the hotel. After the clean and fresh air in the mountains, the air on the coast seemed very hot, dense and humid. We rested by the sea and remembered the recent mountain adventure. No matter how fleeting the space may be, it seems that these beauties, the wind and silence, will remain with you forever. That's all for now. See you on the new peaks.